He didn't have drawings, he made sketches sometimes.
What do you remember a boat costing? Did you ever hear any in your days?
That was another thing that he never discussed with anybody. He quoted a price and he built it, and that was what the price was.
But you don't have any idea what kind of money, 3,000, 5,000?
Not at all.
And he finished a boat in
Yeah, there's Joe.
as quick as 3 months.
Joe Butra.
Yeah.
And you know where that model's at?
Uh,
Scotty Alfie.
At least,
Let me weigh in here for a moment.
Go right ahead.
I'd like to take you back through some of the boat building process, but first, if he was building a boat like the Tina, the one you saw today,
mhm.
how long would that take?
I presumably, it would depend on who was available to help to work with him, like if Uncle Fred was available to work with him, and maybe one other person, it would probably go fairly quickly. But a lot of times he was down there at that shop by himself, day after day. He was the only guy down there working.
How many hours a day would he work?
He would usually go, this was his routine, he would walk down there at probably 7 o'clock in the morning, come home at noon, eat lunch, take a 1 hour nap and go back and work till about 5. And he would do that every day.
When you say if you chart it out pretty quick, could you put it in months or weeks or half a year?
No, I don't think anything, it was probably within 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay, for a boat the size of Tina.
About the size of, yeah, Tina might have even been a little faster than that. It was built the same way, but it was built just a lot smaller scale to deal with.
So if you had to guess how many boats he could build in a year, typical year, what do you think he would produce?
If he had them lined up in some sequence, he probably could have produced 3 to 4. It depends on the size of it, and how involved they were.
Do we know anything about this boat?
No.
Boat for Yancey, okay. And we've got pictures of that boat.
Wow.
That looks like a fairly big boat. Why is it being built outside?
Don't know.
After a storm?
It may have been out there.
It's too big.
Yeah,
It's not that
it
big.
might have been. It might have been too big for the shop.
Oh.
That shop he had, well, like I say, Paul Millsap's boat was 36 feet long. And he extended the shop 10 feet in order to get it in there. So he could build boats probably in the 26 to 28 foot range in the old shop without even doing anything. Maybe 30 feet. Had to be able to get around them.
Well, we think the 45 storm took the shop down. Does that not work with your timings?
No.
No, because you would have been just 4.
I don't know that if it did, I wasn't associated with him at that particular time.
So you were 5 when you saw the shop?
Well, my brothers used to go over there.
What's the youngest you remember seeing your memory of the shop?
Probably about age 6 or so.
How old do you think it was at that time?
The shop itself?
Yes.
It had been there quite some time at that particular time, so probably 40, if it may have taken parts of it down, and they just rebuilt it. I know every time we had a storm, that dang old saw, he'd have to pull that motor out of that saw. And
rewired.
No, he just dried it out. He'd clean it with fresh water and sometimes alcohol, and then just dry it out, and once it was dry, he'd put it back on there. It was a 3-phase motor, so pretty simple. It was blasted probably in the neighborhood of 5 horsepower DC motor that was this big around.
We're talking about the bandsaw, not the.
Yeah, the big bandsaw.
Wonder if we know where that saw is today.
I was talking to Pat Farley about it, and he said he thinks they sold it. It had, I'm pretty sure he moved it from the old shop to the new shop out,
Oh,
the tin building,
I gotta think so.
yeah.
Well, didn't Pat say he remembered as a kid when, or whenever that was, the shop was sold, being there when it was loaded into a truck?
Yeah.
Pop sold the shop. I don't know.
Johnny Martin says that, the buildings behind us, you remember those, the mall-looking building?
Well, not really.
It used to be laundromat and
Yeah,
all that. Johnny Martin said that they built boats there after a storm at one time, and it may not have been the 45, it may have been a 42 or 33.
yeah.
I think it actually, now I'm seeming to remember it was a 33. So maybe this shop that you're familiar with was built after the 33. The old shop where the telephone company was, pull that up, Mark. You had it up earlier, where they were building the Munsell boat, speedboat, was probably the one damaged in 33, and then they shift their location over to Munsell's mall area behind us until they built this shop that you're familiar with.
Uh-huh.
So that may be the timelines. The shop that we're looking at, when he gets it up,
Well, I know my older, I've got a brother that's 6 years older than I am. And I had another one that was 3 years older. And the two of them used to go over to that shop before my mom and he got married and play around that shop. So it was there, I gotta say,
Is this the one you're?
45
Yes.
and well beyond.
now this shop is the one that I believe was probably damaged in 33.
Mm-hmm.
This one was set up after 1919 storm, using the bricks from the old telephone building and the slab from the old telephone building.
Well, the old shop never had a slab in it, it was wooden floor.
The one you're familiar with?
Mm-hmm.
Right, but this one did.
Yeah.
But it was very close physically to where the other one is. It was just.
Kind of
just
across
next-
the street.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right, pretty much across the street. And this one here, we've got a picture from a distance of it, but,
Of the shop itself?
yes, with, after the 1919 storm, when they kind of erected it to build boats, because, you know, they started, we believe, in 1916. Do you have any information on that, when they started building boats in Port Aransas?
No.
It's an old picture. I think it's probably in the Gillespie files. But other than boats, well, do you have any more boat questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have a couple more.
I thought you might.
Sure. The process that you took me through, where he drew out a body plan, is one that we still use today. We still do it the same way they did it.
Yeah,
Draw out the ribs, only one half of the boat, because
Yeah.
it's a symmetrical structure.
no.
Keep going.
Yeah, this is my oldest brother.
So that's still,
That's
Fill,
right.
fill them.
and that's the new shop.
He goes by Hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to school with his kids.
It's been a great, you're a great.
All of us were born Hammers, but when I was 12, Pop adopted my older brother Larry and myself. And he was in the Marines already, so he didn't want to go through changing all of his records.
Good idea.
So you were 12, that would have been 53,
Yeah.
somewhere around there. So he would have been in during the Second World War, right? That's
No,
Korea,
he was
really.
Korean.
Korea.
They had to actually sign for him. He went in the Marines when he was 17.
Well, Larry changed his name.
Yeah, Larry and I were both adopted at the same time.
Larry died pretty young.
Committed suicide.
Did he really? I didn't know
I had a couple of questions back about the shop. One was, where was Fred?
Well, Fred, Uncle Fred was a boatman, and he was probably one of the best wing shots there was for duck hunting and dove hunting and stuff. And he took people hunting. He would take parties out to go duck hunting, etc. And Uncle Fred, during those seasons, is when he was doing that. And there was a very small period of time when he couldn't do any of that. They would work in the shop.
He was part-time at the
Yeah,
shop,
yeah.
full-time during the off-season.
Actually, when this is Farley Boat Works here, it was Fred Farley and Son was the old shop, and before that it was Fred Farley and Sons. And Fred was their father, and he assumed that all three of those boys were gonna take over that business. And that's why he put the Fred Farley and Sons on it.
And the three boys are Fred, Jim, and Don.
Mm-hmm.
And Don, he didn't like building boats, he liked fishing.
Don was yeah, he loved fishing. Well, and he also got on with Field Osborne, and he spent the last 20 years of his working career working for Field Osborne.
Doing,
Captain?
When he came down, he was exclusive to go fishing or hunting
I
with
see,
him.
okay.
And otherwise, he could use, he had a boat, he had one of those little tarpon boats that, you know, one of them that had that
Right.
forward open. And,
Yeah. What-
he would take people fishing during, you know, when Mr. Osborne wasn't around, you know. He could use the boat for anything he wanted to.
Okay, I think Rick's got some more.
Yeah, it did, so that Fred was a part-time boat builder. He'd come in full-time in the off-season, but mostly he was a hunter and fisher like Don.
Yeah,
They both were boatmen, so your pop, Jim, was really the boat builder.
he was the boat builder.
Okay. Do you know if he ever built any skiffs?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
He would build them kind of like during downtime. I mean, you know, it's not something that he specialized in, he just did them when people wanted skiff built. He built a few of them, but not too terribly many. Most of, like Uncle Fred would have one of them, you know, he'd pull behind his boat to go duck hunting. To carry
Were they-
decoys.
Were they planked?
No, most of them are made out of plywood.
Okay.
We have some wonderful old movies of Bill Farley
Mhm.
and, with a group of hunters
Yeah,
back in the swamp, and they have they're pulling several skiffs behind the boat. I think those were built at the Farley shop.
quite possibly, yes.
They were planked up boats, they're beautiful boats.
Yeah, but sometimes I knew he had built a couple of lap straight boats, but, it was just because somebody wanted it that way. If somebody just came up and said, I want a skiff, you know, he'd just build a simple skiff.
Probably cost.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember anybody else building boats in your days?
At this shop,
Anywhere in Port Anne?
yeah, Bubba Molina built skiffs.
Yeah.
He actually went into business building.
Outside of that, anybody else?
I'm sure there was a lot of people around that built their own skiffs in particular. I
I
don't
mean,
know
for-
of anybody that built,
for
plank
sale.
built boats.
Would-
It became basically, and that's what Papa always discouraged us from going into this business, because it was a lost art. You know, and you had the big companies like Chris Craft.
Right.
And the likes
Assembly
that were
line.
mass producing boats. you know, in
Actually,
fact-
you know, like he told, when I came in, and he'd say, it's just a lost art, and you can't make any money in it, and I don't know
Yeah,
if that generation that wants to spend the money to have one of these built and wait and the time You know, it's another generation that wanted to go into a boatyard and pick one out and pull it out, you know.
Now, are you from here?
No, no,
Just wondered, maybe I didn't have another,
Just for the record, she's from Herman, Missouri.
okay,
It's
it's on the record now.
It's
It's official.
It's a little,
but,
little city on the Missouri River. Was built like the Rhine, over in the Rhine.
I'm sort of a
Bunch of
river
Germans.
rat instead of a,
Bunch of Germans
There was an evolution from the tarpon boats to the bigger boats.
Yeah.
Like this. That happened because people had more money, because they didn't catch so many tarpon. There was no one reason, or can you
probably all
think
of
of
the
that?
above.
I think,
One of the things that Uncle Don used that tarpon boat for, it was especially, you know, the famous photographs of the president, was he was a phenomenal trout fisherman, speckled trout. And that boat was phenomenal for doing that.
right.
Could lay in the surf, you know, and just lay in there and catch trout.
Well, the tarpon boats only held 13 gallons of fuel, so your
Yeah.
range was minimal.
They went out to the end of the jetties and
Yeah.
around them and.
So
stayed.
as deeper water fishing, sailfish and so forth, the boats had to get bigger
Yeah.
to get the capacity and dual engines and,
Yeah.
but you know, in the early days, there was no reason to go further than
No. Pretty much they go out to the end of those jetties out there
and
and
come back around.
catch whatever they
Yeah.
wanted.
So I would say that's got a lot to do with it, and you would agree.
Mhm. I'm sure it will. That plus people probably, people that had the resources, had more resources, you know, later on it would. These weren't, a lot of the boats he built were not for the working class people to go out there and take parties out in. It was private boats for people to play
Yes,
around
it changed.
in. Yeah.
Did you ever see the speedboats, any of the speedboats?
No, not.
They were gone?
Yeah, they were building those quite a ways before I ever came.
Yeah, they were 30s, but I was wondering if they were around or you'd ever,
There may have been some around, but, I don't recall exactly.
who did you work for when you, the summers, did you work for somebody on a boat?
Oh, yeah,
It wasn't on
I
one
was
of those boats?
deckhand for Burton Curry on the, was a doctor,
Shots?
no, that was done when I did
Dr. Schatz actually bought the house that I grew up in, the first 5 years.
that. On Channelview?
Yeah, the little house over there on the beach road.
I'm sorry, you got.
No, I was gonna say Rick.
When we have, I wanna go back to the employees. Name came up, did Bubba Molina ever work for Fred, or for Jim, at the boat shop?
Not to my knowledge. Bubba was well, you had some photographs earlier of boatman down in Matthews. And he was primarily a boatman, you know, to take tourists out fishing, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of guys that did that.
The Schatz house, have you seen it since you've been back?
No, we drove by there the other day and didn't.
You wouldn't recognize
You
it.
wouldn't recognize.
Probably wouldn't,
Been completely,
There's another house built on top of it.
yeah.
Oh my
The
gosh.
original roof line is still under there,
Yeah.
but I don't think it improved it much.
so you deckhand for Burton?
Yeah,
What was the name of the
on the
boat?
Wolverine,
Wolverine, that's right.
yeah.
And,
I knew that.
Dr. Blakeney was the
The owner.
owner of it, yeah. Actually, Colonel Blakeney.
Did he charter it or just for him?
No, he owned it.
I know, but was it for hire also when he wasn't
No.
here? Where
He
did-
came, because he was over in Carpus is where he lived.
So he did not have a house here?
I don't think he did. The Blakeneys, I don't think they did. But
That's
he
not
would
bad.
come over here and go fishing quite frequently during the summer. He was strange fellow. He would not drink beer cold.
Really?
Every beer he drank was hot.
Did,
And he'd sit back there sucking up diesel fumes in a fighting chair, drinking hot beer.
so the Wolverine was diesel,
Yeah,
single screw or
that
twin?
was twin. It's 65 foot long. Pretty good sized boat.
It was not a Farley boat?
No,
Okay,
no,
I think we have some information.
65 foot's a big boat.
big boat, yeah.
And it was docked where?
Over there, you know where Studeman's place was?
Yeah,
Over in that area.
That's,
Del Mar. Yeah. So, did you deck in for anybody else over the years?
Mm.
Just for?
Only did that for 3 years, 3 summers.
I see.
Then I went in the Navy.
Rick, do you still have questions?
yeah, I do, you became a real deckhand in the Navy.
Yeah.
The,
No, I wasn't, I was an engineer.
oh, wow. Way down in the village,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, my question was, where did they get the wood? Did somebody deliver it to them, they go pick it up themselves?
Samsco,
Pardon?
Samsco Marine,
Spell that?
SAMSCO, was over in Carpus. He got a lot of stuff from over there. And he'd truck it over here.
They trucked it over, Samsco delivered it?
Mhm.
Was that after the cypress era, was that during the mahogany era?
Yeah,
Okay. Don't know where they got the cypress?
I don't really know. I know that he talked about the earlier years, probably say pre-40s. Everything they built was out of Cyprus, and they got it out of Louisiana somewhere, but I don't know who supplied it or, you know, anything of that sort.
The Samsco was in Corpus?
It was, yeah, I don't know if it still is or not.
Found it. Did Samsco also sell like marine engines
They had-
and things of that
They
sort?
had marine fittings and all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Just to supply a
They
lot of
like
people.
all of these rails had little brass strips around them,
Mm-hmm.
like a quarter round or.
All that came
I
from
guess the
that.
bank,
Half round.
the
yeah.
bank's
Yeah.
records are,
Well, like the,
you can't
Miss
get to them
Tina's
for
got it all
privacy.
around.
Yeah,
All of that he got from over
okay, so they had fittings too. What about marine engines? Did they supply those?
there. Yeah, I think they did.
Okay,
The Marine Walmart.
Yeah,
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 they were that.
okay.
And it's funny because William H. Whiting, which still is in Baltimore, and I'm from the East Coast, and that's where he got all that stuff. And you know, and if you were from
Are you still?
New Jersey, all down to Virginia, that was the place that
It
had
has
to
to
go.
need to be, so you're taking
Let me talk a little bit about
Portage,
the
anything you
family.
wanted.
Now, there's 3 brothers, Philip, Larry, and yourself,
Mike.
and the oldest is Philip,
Yeah,
then Larry,
yeah.
then you, okay. And, Jim being your adopted dad, your mother's name was
Mary
Mary. Do you know her maiden name?
Cannon.
Where was she from, do you
St. Louis,
originally?
Originally, St. Louis is where she was born.
Okay.
ironically.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything goes back to St. Louis here. Oddly enough, and, there's only the 3 of you guys.
Mhm.
Did Jim have any other kids from any other marriage or anything?
He was married prior, but they never could have kids.
What was his wife's name was? Vivian?
I don't recall.
And you were raised there in the old house Dr. Schatz bought?
For up till I was 5. When they got married, then we moved into the big house, the farming house.
You have to tell him how Pop built the bunks in the upstairs.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you ever been in that house, but
Just downstairs.
the entire upstairs, you know how steep the roof is on it, so it's like a story and a half house.
Right.
Here.
That upper entire level, he went in there and he built bunk beds into, up against the walls with drawers underneath them before they got married. He built all of that for us.
Mark, I need to get us a walkthrough with a film in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to be there.
And he put a bathroom, down in the, end of it. Yeah.
How long were you guys here?
We were gonna leave tomorrow.
There was a bunk bed right here at this window,
You know who lives in
and
the
two of
house?
them over on
Nobody
this
lives
side.
in
And the
That's
bathroom
what
was
we
on the other
thought.
end of this
Is it
gate.
available?
No.
No? They don't want to sell it?
There are bunk beds over here, two over here, and the bathroom was over on the other side, the other gate.
Is
I
this
know the
Presumably-
owner.
Mijay?
Yeah,
Mijay still on it?
He's,
Does Rush still own it?
yes, he's the president of my, he's my boss.
Is he?
Oh.
You know, I met Russ a long time ago once, but I used to work with his cousin in Missouri.
Everything goes back.
Oh, yeah.
Judy, her name was Judy Cashin.
Well, we've been trying to figure out if he still owns it, because it looks like it's sitting
He
abandoned.
lives in Corpus now.
Oh, does he?
His employment is over there and he keeps the house, of course.
But he doesn't, there's nobody basically living in it right now.
No, he comes over and mows the yard and takes care of it and,
So that answers that question. You wouldn't do any good to go knock on the door,
No.
nobody there.
no, but I'll see what possibilities we might could look at.
I
If
was
there's-
in that house about 30 years ago. I do not remember the bunk beds at that point.
Upstairs,
Yeah.
Good
they
night.
might have been taken out.
It could also be they just had stuff hiding them.
It was an attic, you know, just a walk-in attic
Mhm.
at the time, because they, Pop built a set of steps that turned and went up, straight up.
That sounds very familiar, but it was pretty much just storage when I was there.
Yeah.
They may well still
They may have been there, I don't know, I don't know why anybody would tear them out, because
Me either.
they were built like, they would have floated,
Yeah.
just like everything. You know, that entire house, inside and out, is diagonal shiplap.
Whoa.
All of the walls on the interior have got reversed
Yeah,
diagonal shiplap on it.
cool.
And then there was sheetrock put over that.
That's could be why it's still perfectly
That's
straight.
why the house is still there. probably.
Perfectly straight too.
Yeah.
Looks like it was
I don't
built
think
yesterday.
it's ever lost more
He,
than
every
a few
house that
shingles.
he built a few houses on it, too. Pop did. In fact, I worked with him building, Barney Junior's house. Barney Farley Junior.
Is it built the same way?
Built the same way. He only knew one way to do something, that was, if it turned over, it would float.
You know, we need to show you something that we call the eighth wonder of Port Aransas, because it's the last boat to come out of that Farley boat shop
Uh-huh,
after Uncle Jim sold it.
yeah.
And when another guy owned it, and he built the boat, never finished it, couldn't sell it. Well, you say, Uncle Jim built himself, it turned upside down, it would float.
Yeah.
This one has that old boat as the roof.
There you
It
go.
definitely would float if you turned it upside
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, we would come down, every year at least once. There for